Thank you for taking the time to watch another Intacct video by Alliance Solutions Group. In today's video, we are going to be discussing Titanium and the interface to Sage Intacct. Let's get started. When we first go into Titanium, you're greeted with a dashboard of pertinent information to help you perform the task you need to perform. Let's start looking at the setup of Titanium. First, we can set up the different fields that are required for routing purpose. So let's go ahead and go into our workflow setup here and look at our routing fields. So we can actually route a document in Titanium by any field on that invoice. As you can see here, I have it set up to use the project manager, entities, the GL account number or vendor account number. And this is the order in which it looks through that information. It's very easy to create a new one. All you have to do is go into create and hit and add new. And you can see we can use any of the fields. Anything from amounts due, bank accounts, or if we scroll all the way down, maybe it's just the total amount of the invoice. So anything you need to route on in Titanium, you can do. The next thing we would do is we would actually set up the routing values groups. So with these, it is actually saying, if I'm using this group, this is the routing rules that are associated with it. So in this case, you can see if it's created as a certain entity or the project manager equals this, it needs to go through this routing group's rules. Whereas with Pinka's rules, it's only related to a certain project. Once we have those set up, we can actually set up our workflows. So within the GIMS approvals, you can see how that workflow is going to happen. It's going to go through the administrative approval and then the final approval review. We also need to set up our users. So within setting up the users, we'll set up roles for users. If we go into one of these roles, you can see how they're set up. Are they able to do things like acquire or add fields, create users? And then we have our data entry groups. Now the data entry groups we're going to use to determine the initial group for the data entry. So as the invoice comes into the system, who's going to be responsible for getting it into the system and then kicking off that routing? In this case, you can see within the groups, you can add extra users. So what we think about with this is maybe you have certain invoices for projects go to one group or overhead invoices go to a different group, but it allows there to be a complete routing kind of begin. So if we were looking at something, I've been in lots of clients that may have project accountants. So there may actually be a group for each project here, so that when they come into the system, that administrative person brings them into the system and puts them into those different projects so each person knows what they need to be responsible for. Once these are set up, we'll go ahead and start walking through the workflow. So for today's demonstration, I did set up a new subcontract inside of Intacct. If we go in and take a look at it, you can see it right here. We have a number of information on it, including the distribution. So that's what we're going to follow through with this particular workflow. As I come out, I go into the data entry, and we have the ability to acquire and auto acquire. Auto acquire allows us to do things like set up a mailbox, an ap@yourcompany.com, where everybody can send their invoice, and then the system will actually review that mailbox and grab the invoices, the attachments off of those emails and bring them into the system for you. Whereas acquire is us scanning documents in, saving them to files, and grabbing them manually, which is what we're going to do today. So let's go ahead and walk through that process. I'm going to go into acquire. Right here, we select that data group. So those data groups we set up, whether it's a project or just admin versus projects, we'll go and use this DEG group. Then we'll select the image type we're about to bring in. As you can see here, we can bring in invoices, We can bring in documents, so extra documents, attachments, supporting documents to invoices. We can bring those into the system and then attach them. We can even have scanned checks and then end up attaching those to the invoices they were associated with. In this case, we're just going to do invoices. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to actually select the files that I want to get. So it's going to point me out. I'm going to go ahead and grab this one right here. I could grab multiple files, bring them all in at the same time. But once we have them here, I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. That's going to bring it into the system. I'm going to be able to look at it, make sure everything's okay, and then I can tell it to acquire it. So we have now acquired that document and brought it into the system. So it is available for us to start moving it through the system. As we come back in, you'll see that document right here. Now, I might have 15 documents, so somebody might have done that first administrative piece that acquired documents and put them into the different workflow groups. Now I'm logged in as a workflow group, and I'm seeing all the documents that are assigned to my group. And we can actually see that information right here. I could select them all. I could select individual ones. I could select just a single one. And once we have that, we hit execute. That's going to bring it into the system for us to start reviewing it. We can zoom in and out. We can see how it's set up. You'll notice that there's some fields here that it's already grabbing via its OCR capabilities for me. So I can see this information at this level. I can see the draw, that invoice number, billing number, and it's looking at these words over here to figure out what's supposed to be the totals. So as I'm looking through here and I scroll across, you'll see some different information possibly coming into the system, like that bill number, due dates, all those pieces. As we're looking at this document, if I'm looking at this document and I see, well, there's more things on it and they're going to send this the same way every single time, I can actually go in and do a capture template for A1 Electric Company. So it would allow me to see this information and do more to it. So we can define extra pieces to these puzzles. So if we're looking right here and I'm looking at like Beaverson Sand, you can see how I'm highlighting information. And if I know something is something, I can click on it and tell it what it is. So if they're going to always add a subcontract number or PO number the way it needs to be in the system, and they're going to put it right here, I can actually have that information draw directly into the system for me, giving me what I need when I need it. So I'm going to come back out here and we're going to continue with this flow. As I'm looking right here, I can see all my entities. I can hit my drop down list. It is pulling from Intacct. I could have started typing and it would have gone closest fit. With our transaction type, this is related to a subcontract. So I can come in and I can actually hit my list here. This is A1 Electric Company, so I will probably want to, I can hit my list and we want to do a vendor invoice. Now I'm coming over here to my converted from. The converted from are those different subcontracts, POs, purchase receipts, however we're looking at that. And I can come in and tell it, I just want to see the ones for A1 Electric Company. I can sort by any one of these columns to find the information I'm looking for. As you recall, this was that subcontract that I wanted it associated with. So I can pull that information in for me, including the distribution. Now we already have our dates. GL posting date's going to go in for me. I can put it in as any date I'd like to with that GL posting. I can put the document information here, so I'm just going to go in and put in 1/12/23. The bill number's already there for me. I can put a reference number, so if there's an extra reference number that we want to associate this with, we can. Down below, I'm looking at the actual distribution. Just like with Intacct, it's going to bring in whatever's left on that subcontract. And I can come right here and tell it, well, this particular bill itself is only $59,000. So I can put in the $59,000 right there. And it's going to automatically calculate my retainage and everything for me. Now that I have this in the system and I'm looking at it, I can go ahead and add supporting documents. I could add a note. I can save and route it. So I'm that first person. I've got my invoice in. Now I need that approval on it. So we'll just go ahead and save and route. What that just did is you can see it's no longer part of my queue for data entry. It's now within the document automation. So when that project manager logs in, they're going to be able to come to their document automation, see what's in here, and they're going to be able to execute these different documents. So as I come through and I click on execute, I'll see everything that's associated to me that I need to approve. So as we're walking through, I can see these different invoices, and here's the one that just came into the system. It is now available for me to look at and review. I can come in and, like I said before, add a note to this. We can see all the notes. We can add supporting documents, and I can approve or reject. If I approve, it goes to the next step, maybe going back to AP or to the accounting department to approve with final approval. When you are the last person in that approval process, when it is approved, it gets released to Intacct. So in this case, that is the case. So I'm going to go ahead and hit approve. It's saving this invoice. It's taking a little bit longer because it's actually updating Intacct at the same time. Now you'll notice that it's no longer in my queue. It is gone. It has moved to that next stage. When we come back out, and I'm going to go back over here to the accounting program. We'll just close out of construction here, and I'm going to refresh everything. We'll come back over and we'll take a look at that information. So if I go back into my GC database here, and I scroll down into purchasing, and I look over here at the different invoices that have come into the system. As you can see here, I can sort by vendor. I can see that there's Timberline Titanium attachments here. I can come down here and look at all this information all the way through. So I have all the invoices coming into the system here. Everything for A1 Electric Company has been entered into the system. We can always sort by any column we want, getting more and more information as we move through the system. As you can see here, I have my dates on all these invoices, so we can see exactly when everything is entered. Here's that draw 2 we just entered. Let's go ahead and view it. So we're coming in, we're seeing all the information exactly the way we just put it in. Here's that $59,000. Here's the titanium attachment. So I can click on this. Downloads the attachment for me right here that I can view directly from Intacct, getting all the information I need. If we come back over here and we actually look at the subcontract information that is associated with this, so we'll go back over to subcontracts and we'll go ahead and view this one. You'll see that my invoices are here in the system. Here's both of the invoices completely brought in. I can see in the transactions that I have all the dollars converted. If I was to scroll into any one of these documents right here, whether it be this one or this one, it's going to take me directly into that invoice where I can review that invoice, see the information. But there is a complete interface between the two products. The last step is what Titanium allows us to do on the back end, which is create a substantiated billing report. So this comes into play when we're going ahead and billing the owner, and we have to back it up with the documents from the vendors. So inside of Titanium here, I can go down to my inquiries, and I can do an invoice inquiry. And what this is going to allow me to do is I can come in and put specific dates, so this month, and then right down here, I can select a project. So if we went in here and I said I wanted to do La Quinta, Houston, I can now run this report. If I say show job costs, it'll just give me some extra filtering and sorting options. So I'm going to go ahead and create the report. When I said those extra options, it comes in the grouping. When I say show job costs, I could group this by project or cost type or cost or the task, the cost code. if that's what you need to do. We can still do no grouping, and I'll go ahead and say we want it in a PDF, and we want the report and images combined in one file. I can give it a header, so this could be month of, and then we create that report. And what it's going to do is create what we need to send that associated document with our billing, the substantiated billing. So here's everything that happened during that time period, and behind it are all the attachments. Not only the attachments, as you can see here, but also when it was received, who approved it. You can see admin approvals there. If we scroll down, this one was done by admin also. But as we go further, you'll see James Davis. So you'll see the complete workflow of that document and have your automated backup for the owner when needed. If you have any other questions about Titanium or Intacct or the interface between the two, please don't hesitate to give us a call. Thank you.